Welcome back to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can check out all of our great podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording this episode on Tuesday, March 28th. And joining me as always is Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, the U.S. Consumer Confidence Survey, which I'll let you define in a moment here, was released. It's providing some very interesting information with regard to just how people are feeling about things. I will preface your explanation of the Conference Board and the U.S. Consumer Confidence data by saying that Americans are looking at this two very different lenses. Some people are seeing things and they feel like things are good, and there's virtually an equal number of people that are viewing the economy and feeling that it is bad. There's about a 50-50 split on whether it is easy to find a job right now or hard to find a job right now. And so when I look at a report such as this, I thank my lucky stars that I have Dr. O to talk to. Take it away, make sense of this thing for me. I'm just trying to get a grip on what the folks on the ground are thinking and feeling right now. It reads like confusion. The report reads like confusion in the market.
Yeah, I mean, the Consumer Confidence Survey, there are two of them that I look at. There's the Conference Board. There's also the University of Michigan that publishes one. But what they try to do is kind of measure opinions and attitudes of consumers about the current and future strength of the economy. You know, they ask consumers random questions about current economic conditions, their intentions to spend, how they feel about the labor market and ease of finding a job and all that stuff. It's not surprising to me that you get this kind of K-shaped survey where you have people at the very top that are somewhat comfortable still, responding that they feel optimistic about the future, whereas people at the bottom who are really feeling the pinch right now due to this inflation, kind of stubbornly high inflation, they're feeling negative about the present situation. And I think that's what is reflected in the survey. If you look at data I like looking at the TransUnion Consumer Pulse Survey, which we've mentioned on the podcast before. You see the same thing. People from different generations, different age groups are feeling differently about the current situation. Some are pulling back their spending tremendously, while others are just continuing to spend and kind of raking up credit card bills. I think that's what we're seeing in the survey. This tale of two types of consumers, those who are pulling back because they're squeezed, especially those at the lower end of the income distribution, whose kind of basic spending, right? This non-discretionary spending is taking up a larger share of their income and they're being squeezed. And then you have people at the top who are still spending.
Well, let me read to you from the report and share this with the group as a whole. And this is, what is allowing me to draw this conclusion that there's confusion in the market or there's mixed feelings. And this is really, this is a sentiment. This is, about how we feel about the things that are going on in the economy. So in the present situation, 18.4% of consumers said business conditions were quote unquote good, up slightly from 18%. And that's over the prior month. However, 19.3% said business conditions were quote unquote bad, which is up from 17.4%. There's an increasing number of people who feel like business conditions are bad. On the appraisal of the labor market, 49.1% of consumers said jobs were quote unquote plentiful. However, that number is down from 51.2% in February. And 10.3% of consumers said jobs were quote unquote hard to get, which is roughly about the same number as it was last month. So some people are scuffling. People that can find work maybe are a little bit more pessimistic. I mean, about 2% difference there between 51.2 and 49.1. So what do you make of that?
What I see here is that, historically consumer confidence surveys have been okay. They provide a little extra information to help you predict, the value of consumption consumption growth in the future, where consumption is going to be in the future. But when you are in a situation like we are today, where people are hit differently by the current economic climate, I really question the reliability of these surveys to help tell us anything about where the economy is headed, And so I would say, maybe in good times, these provide more information and are helpful. But in times like these, where you have inflation somewhat still elevated, well, look, inflation is coming down, which is good, but it's still, slow to come down. Where you have a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the business climate, but also with the latest bank turmoil, there's a ton of uncertainty. I mean, look, even the Fed chair, Powell, very uncertain about whether or not the latest banking sector turmoil is going to be as disinflationary as some of the research shows, right? And so even the Fed's forecast is a big if right now in terms of where the U.S. economy is going to end up towards the end of this year. And so I doubt the latest survey is going to provide any more information than we already possess about, where we think the economy is going to end up by the end of this year.
Well, and, I would say one thing, as you and I have started doing this show, committing to doing this show on a regular basis. I mean, we are talking to more people just about how they think and feel about what's going on in the economy. We're hearing from some listeners, and we'd love to hear from listeners. Please feel free to reach out to the show, share your thoughts and ideas and your sentiments. I read this report, while the data is confusing, as being kind of spot on for where just different people are. There's a tremendous amount of disagreement.
Yeah, very, very, very much so. I think it reflects the disagreement. It reflects the heterogeneity in how people feel about the economy. It also reflects the uncertainty. Right. And I think that's why it's kind of all over the place.
Well, there's only one way out, and that's through. I don't remember where I picked that up, but it sounds good. I'm going to go with that. And thanks for everything, as always, Dr. Orphe. Orphe Divounguy. This has been Chris Krug. You've been listening to Everyday Economics. Subscribe to Everyday Economics at americastalking.com.
Freedom and liberty are important to all of us. If you're looking for civil, intellectual conversations with those shaping the future of freedom, try the Future of Freedom podcast with me, Scott Bertram. We speak with leaders across the country in the greater conservative and libertarian movements. In-depth conversations about where the next intellectual battles will happen across the country. It's the Future of Freedom podcast. Find it at americastalking.com or wherever you get your podcasts.